For a long time, people on Earth looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone else was out there. Scientists sent signals into the dark, hoping for an answer. Decades passed, but space stayed quiet. Most people came to believe that maybe, after all, humans really were alone in the universe. Life moved on. Wars came and went, nations changed, technology advanced, and humanity learned to live with its flaws. No one expected that one day the sky would answer back. It started with lights. Strange, silent dots moving in perfect formation across the sky. They weren't meteors, planes, or satellites. They moved too smoothly, too intelligently. Within hours, telescopes all over the world locked onto them. Governments were silent, trying to confirm what they were seeing. The objects weren't in orbit. They were slowing down. They were descending. The first public images came from amateur astronomers. What they captured was terrifying. Massive metallic shapes breaking through the clouds. Each ship was the size of a city. People ran into the streets pointing their phones at the sky, unsure whether to be afraid or amazed. Social media exploded with theories. Some said it was a government experiment, others said it was the end of the world. But deep down, everyone knew something had changed forever. Within hours, world leaders called for calm. Scientists tried to communicate with the newcomers. Massive antennas transmitted peaceful messages in dozens of languages and mathematical codes. Humanity waited for a reply. Days passed and the silence grew heavy. The alien ships didn't respond. They simply hovered there, motionless, as if watching. Cities beneath them felt the weight of their presence. Shadows that stretched for miles, reminding every human being how small they really were. Then, strange probes began falling from the sky. They looked like black orbs, smooth and soundless, landing gently in forests, deserts, and oceans. They didn't explode or attack, they just observed. They floated silently, scanning, recording, as if studying the world. Scientists approached them carefully. Some of the orbs emitted faint vibrations, almost like a heartbeat. One night, several probes suddenly activated, sending a blinding pulse of light across the sky. Every satellite went offline. Communications crashed. The world went dark, panic spread like wildfire. Planes were grounded, cities went silent, and fear took hold. Humanity was blind, and whoever was watching them now had full control. Governments rushed to restore systems, but it was too late. Within hours, a strange broadcast appeared on every screen. Not words, not images, but patterns and sounds. Experts tried to decode it, but one thing was clear: it wasn't random. Someone, or something, was speaking. The message lasted only a few minutes. But in that time, every human watching felt the same chilling sense. This wasn't a greeting. It was a warning. Then came the first incident. A rural town in South America reported a strange object landing nearby. Military forces went to investigate, expecting debris. What they found was beyond understanding. A tall, luminous creature moving like liquid metal, surrounded by energy so intense that their equipment stopped working. The soldiers tried to communicate. The creature didn't respond. It simply scanned them and vanished into thin air. Hours later, nearby towns reported seeing hundreds more descending silently from the clouds. The world realized it wasn't witnessing a visit. It was witnessing an arrival. At first, there were no attacks. The alien presence spread quietly. Large crafts parked above oceans and mountains, staying still, blocking sunlight for miles. People began calling them the shadows. Life on Earth became different overnight. Fear replaced routine. No one talked about politics or sports anymore, only the ships above. Every government in the world tried to open contact, but no signal was ever answered. Finally, one appeared. A bright beam of light shot down from one of the ships, forming a large circle of energy in the desert. The signal was received globally, translated automatically into all languages. A voice, calm but cold, echoed through every screen and radio. It said, "Humans of Earth, you have been observed. Your species has been classified. You are not the dominant life form. You will comply with our protocols." No one moved. People stared at the words in silence. What did it mean? Comply with what? But before anyone could react, the transmission ended. Moments later, hundreds of alien drones emerged from the hovering ships, scanning cities, taking samples of air, water, and soil. The world's militaries tried to stay calm, but every general knew what was coming. They were being measured like animals in a field. A week later, everything changed. Without warning, One of the alien ships fired a beam of light onto an uninhabited island, and the entire landmass vanished in seconds. It wasn't an explosion, just pure disappearance. The message was clear. They weren't asking for cooperation. They were demanding it. World leaders met secretly in underground bunkers. No one could agree on what to do: attack, surrender, wait. Humanity had never faced anything like this. But deep inside, something ancient began to awaken. The same instinct that had carried them through centuries of war, disaster, and survival. Humanity had always been underestimated even by its own kind. Now it was being underestimated by an empire from the stars. Ordinary people reacted first. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers began working together, sharing knowledge online even while the world governments hesitated. Small resistance groups began forming. They didn't have alien weapons or space fleets, but they had something stronger: determination. Across the globe, humans started testing new ways to block the alien scanners, hide their heat signatures, and jam their transmissions. One night, near a coastal base, an alien probe crashed during a storm. Soldiers rushed to the site expecting danger. What they found changed everything. The probe was alive but damaged. Its surface opened like a flower, revealing strange lights and energy patterns. Human engineers spent days studying it. What they discovered shocked them. The aliens weren't perfect. Their systems could be disrupted by simple electromagnetic pulses. They weren't gods. They were vulnerable. When the news reached military command, the tone of the world began to shift. People started to believe again. Maybe they could fight back. Maybe this was just another kind of war, one that humans could win with courage and brains. Meanwhile, the aliens watched silently. Their scans showed something they didn't expect: humans adapting faster than any species they had ever studied. In a matter of days, these primitive creatures were learning how to counter their technology. They had expected fear and surrender, but what they saw was defiance. Humans were unpredictable. They refused to kneel. They resisted with whatever they had, even sticks and stones if needed. Across cities and villages, people began organizing underground shelters, communication lines, and defense groups. Scientists started building energy shields using repurposed technology. Mechanics turned old satellites into tracking systems. Humanity, once divided by borders, had started to unite under one goal: survival. It was in that moment that the aliens began to realize something wasn't right. Their records described humans as weak, emotional, and unorganized. But now the data coming from their probes told a different story. Humans were fighting back not with strength, but with intelligence and fury. They had no fear of death, only the fear of being conquered. On Earth, nights were no longer peaceful. The once beautiful skies now glowed with the shadows of alien ships. But in every corner of the planet, from deserts to frozen lands, humans prepared silently. Factories started producing machines and weapons faster than ever before. Old rival nations began sharing their secrets. Humanity had been pushed into a corner, and when humans are cornered, they don't surrender. They strike back. Part 1 ends with the quiet before the storm. The world holds its breath. The alien ships still hover, believing their control is absolute. But down below, in hidden labs and secret bases, humans are awake, learning, planning, waiting. They have seen the enemy. They have tasted fear, and they have made a silent promise: they will not be prey. The night sky may belong to the invaders for now, but the ground belongs to humanity. And soon the universe will learn that the most dangerous predator is not the one with the sharpest claws. It's the one that refuses to die. The silence in the sky didn't last long. After the alien message that demanded humanity's obedience, the world changed forever. People no longer trusted the calm. Every time the wind blew, every flicker of light in the night sky made hearts race. For a week, the alien ships simply hovered above the Earth, motionless, their dark shapes blocking the sunlight over large regions. Crops failed, temperatures dropped, and people started to lose hope. It felt like the planet had been swallowed by a shadow that would never leave. But beneath that fear, something powerful was growing. The feeling that had saved humanity through every age on defiance. People started to whisper that if these creatures thought humans were weak, they were wrong. If they thought Earth would surrender, they were about to face the biggest mistake of their existence. In secret bunkers, military leaders and scientists worked day and night. They studied the alien signals, the energy bursts, the patterns of their drones. Every detail mattered. They didn't have the technology to attack, not yet. But they could learn. Humans always learned fast when their survival was on the line. Somewhere in the desert, a group of engineers and researchers managed to reactivate the damaged alien probe that had crashed earlier. What they discovered shocked everyone. The aliens weren't gods, they were biological, not machines. Their technology looked advanced, but it wasn't flawless. It ran on complex energy frequencies that humans could jam. That discovery changed everything. Messages spread quickly through encrypted networks. Across continents, hidden workshops started building strange new devices. Compact energy disruptors designed from the crashed probe's components. They didn't look like much, but when activated, they could confuse alien sensors and shut down their smaller drones. For the first time, humanity had a weapon that worked. News of these small victories spread quietly. People in cities began to look up again, not with fear but with determination. Humanity's courage was returning piece by piece. Then came the first confrontation. One of the alien drones descended near a small coastal town to collect samples. It was the size of a bus, covered in blue lights and metal plates that shifted like breathing skin. Locals gathered in silence, staring at it. When the military arrived, they surrounded it cautiously, weapons ready but useless. They had orders not to fire. But one of the engineers with them had brought a small disruptor prototype. With trembling hands, he activated it. The device made no sound, no flash, just a pulse of invisible energy. The drone stopped moving. Its lights flickered, then went dark. A moment later, it fell to the ground, lifeless. No one moved. For 10 long seconds, the only sound was the wind. Then someone whispered, "It worked." That single sentence changed the world. The news spread like fire. Humanity had just disabled alien technology. It wasn't much, but it was enough to ignite hope. Across the globe, people started cheering for the first time in weeks. Humanity had found a weakness, and now they had a reason to fight, but victory came with consequences. Within hours, the alien ships above Earth reacted. Their dark surfaces began to glow, lines of red energy running across their hulls like veins of fire. Every screen, every radio, every satellite went dead. Then came a voice, not through speakers, but directly into people's minds. "You resist," it said. "You were warned." A cold wave of fear spread through every city. Moments later, beams of energy shot down from the sky. They didn't hit people, but targeted the disruptor signal sources. Power plants, labs, and communication towers exploded one after another. In a few hours, the world went dark again. The aliens had responded with precision, cold, merciless precision. But humans didn't stop. Even with the lights gone and systems offline, people kept building in the shadows. They moved deeper underground into mountains, caves, and abandoned cities. What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity was used to surviving in chaos. They had done it through wars, disasters, and famines. They could do it again. The alien attacks became more frequent. Drones began patrolling cities, scanning for life signs. They collected people for examinations, taking them aboard their ships. Those who returned described cold metallic halls and blinding lights. The aliens treated humans like animals being tested. But even in captivity, humans refused to break. Some managed to escape, bringing valuable information about the ship's interiors. They spoke of alien weakness, how their systems relied on energy cores that could be overloaded. That was all humanity needed to hear. Scientists immediately started working on ways to recreate that energy reaction. It wasn't easy, but desperation has always made humans inventive. Using scavenged materials and old power cells, they built experimental weapons designed to overload alien systems. Some failed, some worked. But every failure taught them something new. Humanity wasn't just fighting for freedom now. They were evolving. Meanwhile, the aliens began to study humanity more deeply. Their records described humans as a primitive race driven by emotion and chaos. But their new data showed something terrifying. Humans were unpredictable, adaptive, and their emotional strength gave them a kind of power that logic couldn't measure. Fear, anger, hope. These emotions made them dangerous. The alien commanders couldn't understand it. Every time they destroyed a base, 3 more appeared somewhere else. Every time they silenced one signal, new ones rose. Humanity was like wildfire. No matter how much they tried to extinguish it, it spread further. In one underground base, deep beneath a frozen mountain, A group of scientists finally managed to create a stable fusion pulse using alien energy samples. It wasn't large, but it could disable entire groups of drones at once. They called it the heartbeat, because when activated it made a low, deep thump that echoed through the ground like a living heart. The first test came when an alien patrol discovered their base. The humans had only minutes to react. They activated the heartbeat. The sound filled the tunnels, vibrating through metal walls. Above ground, every drone froze midair, their lights flickering before they dropped like stones. For the first time, humans defeated an alien force in direct combat. That event changed everything. Leaders across the globe decided it was time to stop hiding. Humanity began to fight back. Within weeks, coordinated attacks started against the alien drones. Humans used guerrilla tactics, striking fast and vanishing before the aliens could react. Old aircraft were modified into energy pulse bombers. Navy ships turned into floating laboratories. Every human tool became a weapon. The aliens started to feel something new: confusion. They had faced countless species before, but none had reacted like this. Most civilizations surrendered quickly, accepting their fate. But humans, they fought harder after every loss. They turned pain into strength. The aliens realized that fear didn't control them, it fueled them. As months passed, the skies over Earth began to look different. Explosions lit up the horizon, not from alien attacks this time, but from human counterstrikes. The resistance had become a global movement. What started as a few scientists and soldiers had turned into the largest uprising in human history. In one daring mission, human pilots managed to capture a smaller alien craft. It was heavily damaged but functional. Engineers spent weeks studying it, learning how it moved and how its controls worked. When they finally got it to fly, cheers erupted across the base. Humanity had just taken its first step into alien skies. That moment was symbolic. The hunted had become the hunters. From space, the alien commanders watched with unease. They could see human progress happening faster than any known species. Their databases couldn't predict what would happen next because humans didn't follow logic. They acted on something deeper: survival instinct. On Earth, people began to realize something important. The aliens might have stronger weapons, but humans had something far greater: unity. For the first time in history, there were no countries, no borders, no separate armies. Everyone fought as one species. The planet had finally united under a single cause: survival and freedom. The aliens still held the upper hand in technology, but humanity's courage was unmatched. They fought in ruined cities, across deserts, and even underwater. Each victory, no matter how small, pushed the aliens closer to understanding the truth. Humans were not prey. They were predators that had learned to fight long before space travel existed. Part 2 ends as the world stands on the edge of full-scale war. The skies burn with light from both sides. Humans look up not with fear anymore, but with determination. Every child, every soldier, every worker knows what's at stake. They've been called weak, primitive, and unworthy. But soon the galaxy will learn the truth about Earth's children. The predators have awakened. For months, the world had been locked in a silent struggle between fear and hope. The aliens still controlled the skies, but humanity was no longer hiding in the dark. Across the globe, secret labs, underground bunkers, and hidden mountain bases worked non-stop. Every scientist, every soldier, every engineer was united under one goal: to strike back. The world had changed. Cities that once glowed with neon lights were now covered in camouflage nets and solar shields to block alien scans. Oceans were filled with floating stations disguised as empty cargo ships. Mountains hid entire factories beneath their frozen peaks. Humanity was rebuilding, not for peace this time, but for war. The biggest challenge was time. The aliens were adapting too, scanning Earth's surface more often, learning human tactics. Every move was being watched from above. But humans had something the aliens couldn't understand: creativity. They didn't fight by rules. They fought with imagination, with desperation, and sometimes with pure madness. It began with a small plan that didn't look like much on paper: to capture another alien ship, but this time, to fly it into battle. Scientists had spent weeks decoding the ship they had already recovered earlier, trying to understand its systems. Its controls weren't buttons or levers. They responded to thought, to biological signals. Humans couldn't use it directly, so they built an interface, a mechanical bridge between human instinct and alien design. It was clumsy and unstable, but it worked. When the first test flight succeeded, every hidden base around the world celebrated quietly. For the first time, humanity had wings that could reach the invader's own domain, the sky. Then came the announcement that shook every resistance group. Earth was ready for its first coordinated counterattack. The plan was bold, maybe even foolish, but that was what made it human. They called it Operation Dawnfire. The goal was to strike at one of the smaller alien carriers hovering over the Pacific Ocean. That ship was responsible for controlling hundreds of drones across Asia and the Pacific. If they could destroy it, it would send a message across the stars that Earth was not to be taken lightly. The operation began in silence. The night sky was clear, the ocean below calm. Modified human aircraft, fitted with stolen alien parts, flew just above the water's surface to stay hidden from scanners. The pilots didn't speak. They didn't need to. They all knew the risk. None of them might come back. Far above them, the alien carrier glowed faintly like a ghost against the stars. Its surface pulsed with energy, humming quietly as it sent orders to thousands of drones. It had no reason to fear. The aliens believed humans couldn't reach that altitude, couldn't breach their shields. They were wrong. At exactly 2:37 a.m., a pulse cannon, human-made from alien technology, fired for the first time. A beam of white-blue energy shot upward, piercing the night sky. The alien shields shimmered, then flickered. It didn't break them, but it cracked them. Seconds later, human aircraft surged upward, unleashing a storm of missiles. The air shook with explosions. Inside command centers around the world, people watched through satellite feeds, holding their breath. For the first time, humans were not defending, and they were attacking. The battle raged for hours. The ocean below boiled from the heat of energy blasts. Many aircraft were destroyed, but they didn't stop coming. When one went down, another took its place. The alien carrier fought back fiercely, sending swarms of drones into the sky. But something strange began happening. Their drones were malfunctioning. Unknown to the aliens, human scientists had planted a virus inside the stolen ship's control systems. When the carrier tried to coordinate its drones, the virus spread through its network, confusing their signals. The drones began attacking each other, colliding midair in chaos. Then, the moment came. One of the captured alien ships, flown by a team of human engineers, broke through the carrier's shield and slammed directly into its power core. The sky exploded in light. The entire ship went silent before disintegrating into a fireball that illuminated the ocean for miles. The world watched in awe. Humanity had done it. They had destroyed an alien warship. It was a victory small in number but massive in meaning. When the light faded, only a few aircraft returned. Most had been lost, but the message had been sent. Earth was not defenseless anymore. Around the world, people came out of hiding for the first time in months. Fires were lit on mountaintops. Cities that had been silent erupted in cheers. The sound of hope returned. Humanity, for the first time since the invasion, felt alive again. But while the people celebrated, the alien fleet was not silent. Far beyond the clouds, inside the command vessels, the alien leaders observed the battle replay again and again. The data made no sense. How could a young, undeveloped species learn so fast? How could they create weapons from technology they didn't understand? The conclusion was clear. Humanity was adapting at a rate that defied every logic they knew. The aliens were not angry. They were curious and afraid. They began analyzing human behavior in depth. They found something terrifying. Humans didn't fight for conquest or survival alone. They fought for each other. Every battle, every sacrifice was driven by emotion. Loyalty, love, revenge, hope. To the aliens, such concepts were primitive. But now they saw the truth. Emotion gave humans strength beyond science. It made them unpredictable. It made them unstoppable. While the alien commanders argued about what to do next, humanity wasted no time. Operation Dawnfire became the spark for a new era of resistance. Dozens of countries joined together under a single alliance known simply as Earth Defense Command. It wasn't a government, and it was survival in organized form. Every person had a role to play. Every hand was needed. Scientists became soldiers, and soldiers became heroes. Factories that once built cars now built fighter drones. Shipyards turned into weapon platforms. Children grew up listening not to songs but to the sound of drills and engines. Earth had become one giant fortress, and everyone was a defender. But even as humanity grew stronger, they knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had billions of soldiers and ships spread across galaxies. Earth had only one planet and limited time. Still, the humans didn't care about the odds. They had faced impossible challenges before. This was just another one. Soon, new warships rose into the sky, built from both human steel and alien technology. They looked rough, uneven, and full of flaws, but they worked. Humanity had no time for perfection. What mattered was power. Each ship carried hybrid energy weapons and shields that could finally stand against alien attacks. When the new human fleet launched from Earth's orbit for the first time, the world held its breath again. Families watched the sky as streaks of light disappeared into space. Those were not just machines. They were symbols of everything humanity had fought for. High above the atmosphere, the fleet formed its line, small compared to the alien armada, but proud and defiant. The aliens saw it too, and for the first time they hesitated. The humans were no longer crawling on the ground. They had joined the stars. The next encounter came quickly. The aliens sent a warning. A massive ship entered Earth's orbit, its presence enough to block the moon. But this time, the humans didn't wait for the first strike. The hybrid fleet charged forward, firing in perfect coordination. The sky turned into a storm of fire and light. Every explosion told a story of sacrifice, courage, and the unbreakable will to live free. The alien ship fought back fiercely, but its attacks were slower now. Human weapons, though rough and unstable, hit harder than ever before. They learned from every blast, improving tactics in real time. After hours of battle, the alien ship finally withdrew, damaged and silent. Humanity had pushed back an enemy that once seemed like gods. The victory wasn't complete, but it was enough to make every heart on Earth believe that maybe, just maybe, they could win this war. When the human fleet returned home, there was no grand celebration, only quiet pride. Everyone knew more battles were coming, but for now they had proven something important. Humans were not prey. They were fighters, the kind that turned pain into strength, fear into courage, and despair into fire. Somewhere far beyond the solar system, in the Alien Council's grand chamber, the leaders gathered in silence. One of them finally spoke, its voice calm but heavy with unease. The humans have changed the rules of war. They are not to be studied. They are to be feared. Back on Earth, humanity continued to prepare. They had seen victory, but they knew the worst was still ahead. Yet even in the face of destruction, they smiled, because now they believed in themselves again. They had taken their first step toward becoming the hunters. After the victory in space, humanity stood taller than ever before. The alien fleet had finally been forced to retreat, even if only for a short time. It was proof that humans could fight, could bleed, and could win. Across the planet, people celebrated quietly in their homes and shelters. Children looked up at the night sky again, not with fear but with pride. The blue planet that once seemed helpless had now made the galaxy take notice. But deep down, everyone knew it wasn't over. The aliens would return, and when they did, they wouldn't make the same mistakes. Humanity had won a battle, not the war. In secret underground cities and hidden research bases, the work never stopped. Scientists continued studying every piece of alien metal, every fragment of technology recovered from the destroyed ships. The more they learned, the clearer it became that humanity was changing. Their technology was no longer purely human. The lines between what was built on Earth and what came from the stars had started to blur. This was the birth of something new, a civilization that had been forced to evolve faster than nature ever intended. Months passed. The scars of battle were still visible. Entire coastlines burned, cities half ruined, skies tinted faintly red from dust and debris floating in the upper atmosphere. But amidst the destruction, humanity was building something stronger than ever before: hope. For the first time in history, the planet had no borders. There were no different armies, no rival nations. Everyone worked under one flag, one mission: defend Earth and protect the human race. Engineers who once designed cars now worked on starship engines. Farmers who once tilled soil now grew crops inside underground biodomes. Artists painted murals of courage on broken walls, reminding everyone what they were fighting for. The alien defeat had sparked something deep inside every human heart: unity. But while humanity celebrated progress, the aliens were studying, far beyond Earth's orbit, inside a colossal ship hidden behind a dark moon. The alien commanders gathered. They watched holographic projections of the human battles, how the small, fragile-looking creatures had managed to damage ships thousands of times stronger than their own technology. They didn't understand how such a thing was possible. Humans had been classified as a low-level species, barely advanced enough for interplanetary travel. One commander looked at the data again and again, trying to find logic. There was none. The answer was simple. Humans didn't follow logic. They followed instinct. And instinct was something the aliens had lost long ago. Back on Earth, preparations for the next confrontation continued day and night. Massive energy reactors powered underground facilities. The first true human-built starships were nearly ready. They weren't beautiful. They were rough, uneven, full of welded plates and scars from rushed construction. But they were powerful, and more importantly, they were alive with human spirit. Every ship had a story. Some were built from the remains of destroyed alien crafts. Others were made from recycled parts of old satellites and rockets. Together, they formed the largest human fleet in history. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The day of the Second Great Battle arrived without warning. It started when the alien fleet reappeared, much larger than before. They didn't hide this time. Dozens of enormous ships entered Earth's orbit, blocking sunlight and sending waves of energy through the atmosphere. Cities went dark again. The ground shook as the first energy blasts struck. Humanity's defenses activated instantly. Shields powered by hybrid technology surrounded major bases. Sirens echoed across continents, but this time humanity didn't panic. They were ready. The human fleet now stationed above the planet rose to meet the invaders head-on. The first wave of ships moved forward, engines glowing bright blue. From the surface, people could see lines of light shooting into the heavens. The battle had begun. It was chaos at first. Light and sound, explosions that painted the sky. The alien fleet was faster, more advanced, but humans had learned from every past mistake. They no longer fought as individuals. They fought as one. Every ship was connected through an advanced communication system that allowed perfect coordination. And then came humanity's secret weapon, the fusion cannon. It was built deep underground months earlier, powered by a reactor that used both human and alien energy sources. The weapon was never meant for show. It was designed to end a battle in one strike. When it fired, the entire planet felt it. A beam of pure energy erupted into space, slicing through the darkness and striking an alien warship dead center. The ship didn't explode. It simply vanished into light. The energy was so strong that the shockwave rippled through space, disabling nearby alien vessels. For the first time, the aliens felt something new: fear. Inside their command ships, the alien leaders struggled to understand. How had a primitive world created such a weapon in such a short time? The data didn't match their understanding of evolution. It was impossible, unless this species had a hidden potential, and that realization was the turning point. The aliens finally understood that they were not fighting a group of frightened animals. They were fighting a species that refused to die. As the battle continued, human ships moved like hunters, attacking weak points and retreating before the enemy could react. Every pilot fought with desperation, knowing this was more than just survival. It was revenge. Humanity had lost too much to let fear win again. On the ground, people watched the battle unfold from massive screens in underground shelters. Every explosion in the sky was met with cheers or tears. It wasn't just soldiers fighting up there. It was humanity's soul. The battle raged for hours. Then something remarkable happened. The aliens began to retreat, not because they were defeated, but because they couldn't understand how to win. Their tactics relied on prediction, but humans were unpredictable. No algorithm could anticipate their next move. One alien ship after another fell silent, their energy cores overloaded by human interference waves. The sky filled with falling debris, glowing fragments of alien metal that burned as they entered the atmosphere. People on the ground watched them streak across the night, calling them the falling stars of freedom. But even in victory, the cost was heavy. Thousands of human ships were lost. Millions of people across the planet suffered from the destruction. Yet no one gave up. Every loss only made humanity more determined to fight harder. After the battle, silence returned to space. The alien fleet disappeared once again into the blackness, leaving behind wreckage and uncertainty. Humanity had survived another day, but at a great price. In the weeks that followed, something changed inside every human heart. They had seen the enemy retreat. They had seen proof that even the most powerful beings in the universe could bleed, and that realization lit a fire inside the human race that nothing could extinguish. For the first time, the aliens feared the unknown. They had studied countless species, conquered hundreds of worlds, but none like this. Humanity didn't just fight, they adapted. Every battle made them smarter, faster, stronger. They turned weakness into strength and fear into fuel. In their records, the aliens began rewriting their reports. Where they once described humans as fragile and emotional, they now called them something else: apex survivors. The universe had countless predators, but none that could change the rules of war the way humans could. On Earth, the rebuilding began again. Every survivor became a hero, every worker a soldier of hope. Humanity's unity was unbreakable now. It didn't matter how many ships the aliens sent next time, they would be met with fire, courage, and fury. The turning point had come. Humanity was no longer defending their world. They were preparing to take the fight beyond it. In quiet moments, people would look up at the stars, the same stars they once admired with wonder. But now their eyes carried a different look, not curiosity but resolve. Somewhere up there in the endless darkness, the enemy waited. And Earth's children were getting ready to bring the war to them. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not just survivors. They were evolution's final weapon, beings forged by pain, strengthened by unity, and guided by the one force the aliens could never understand: the will to fight for life. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The battle had ended, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the war itself. The night sky was still streaked with faint trails of burning debris from destroyed alien ships. Some fragments had fallen into the oceans, creating waves that reached distant shores. Others burned up in the atmosphere, glowing like golden rain. People stood outside their shelters, watching those lights fall and whispering silent prayers. Humanity had survived the impossible. Again. But survival wasn't enough anymore. Something inside the human spirit had changed forever. The people of Earth had seen their enemy's weakness. They had seen fear in the eyes of creatures that once ruled the stars. And now, the will to strike back burned brighter than ever. Across the planet, leaders gathered in hidden underground cities to make a choice: to wait for another invasion, or to take the fight to the enemy's territory. For the first time, the decision was unanimous. Humanity would no longer hide behind shields. They would rise and confront the ones who had brought so much destruction. The command to build began at once. Massive shipyards expanded across the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Every human hand, every machine, every ounce of effort was focused on one purpose: to build the fleet that would end the war. The first ships were ready within months. They weren't elegant or polished, but each one carried the pride and spirit of humanity. Their hulls were made from alien metal fused with human alloys. Their engines a blend of both technologies. These ships weren't just machines. They were symbols of resistance. People called them the Dawn Fleet. Every ship had a crew made up of volunteers, scientists, engineers, farmers, teachers, ordinary people who had chosen to fight for their planet's future. They weren't trained warriors, but they had something stronger than any weapon: determination. Meanwhile, deep in space, the alien empire was in chaos. Their leaders couldn't explain how humans had defeated two massive invasions. Reports from surviving commanders told of unpredictable tactics, emotional warfare, and strange energy fluctuations caused by human weapons. None of it made sense. For the first time in their long history, the Alien Council began to argue among themselves. Some believed the humans were evolving faster than any known species. Others feared they had awakened something ancient and unstoppable. Their confidence was broken. Their unity was gone. The humans didn't know it yet, but their enemy was falling apart from within. On Earth, final preparations for the counterstrike began. Thousands of families said goodbye to their loved ones heading into space. There were tears, but also pride. People knew this wasn't just a war. It was the beginning of a new chapter for humankind. When the fleet launched, the entire planet watched. From deserts to frozen tundras, From mountain peaks to ocean platforms, people looked up at the dark sky as hundreds of glowing trails rose from Earth and vanished into the stars. It was a moment of unity so powerful that even the most hopeless hearts began to believe again. The journey through deep space was long and filled with silence. For many aboard those ships, it was their first time seeing the Earth as a distant blue sphere. It reminded them why they were out there, not for revenge, but for peace. Humanity wanted to end the war, not to destroy. As the fleet approached the alien territories, they encountered strange wreckage. The remains of alien ships floating aimlessly, their systems dead. It was as if the Empire had been crumbling on its own. Then came the transmission, a weak, broken signal picked up by one of the human scouts. It was alien language, distorted and desperate. After decoding it, the meaning became clear. The alien empire was under attack. From within, something had happened to them, a civil war. Different alien factions were fighting each other, blaming one another for the defeats against humans. It was chaos across their worlds. Humanity's fleet stopped and observed from afar. For days they watched as alien ships destroyed each other. Entire planets glowed with fire. It was a sight both terrifying and tragic. Many in the human fleet didn't know what to feel. They had hated this enemy for years, but seeing them destroy themselves brought no joy. It only showed how power and arrogance could consume even the greatest civilizations. Still, the fleet pressed on. Their mission wasn't over. They needed to make sure the threat to Earth would never rise again. Finally, they reached the alien capital system, a cluster of massive planets surrounded by rings of defense stations. Or what was left of them. Half the stations were silent, the others powered down. The once mighty empire looked broken. The humans sent a message, not a threat but a warning. They broadcast it across the system in every known alien frequency. Leave Earth, leave its people. We will not chase you further, but if you return, there will be no next time. At first there was no reply, then slowly a faint signal returned. It wasn't a command or challenge, it was surrender. The alien fleet had lost its will to fight. The war that had once threatened to wipe out humanity was finally collapsing under its own weight. The predators who had ruled the stars for centuries were now begging for peace. Back on Earth, when the news arrived, the world fell silent. Then came the sound of celebration that echoed across continents. For the first time in generations, people danced in the open air again. Cities lit up their night skies with lanterns, not fires. The stars above no longer felt like a threat. They were symbols of victory. But even in triumph, humanity stayed cautious. They didn't forget the pain of loss or the lives taken by war. The fleet remained in orbit, guarding the skies, ensuring the peace they had fought so hard to earn would last. In the months that followed, contact between humans and alien survivors began, cautiously. There were no more battles, only small signals exchanged between ships. The aliens, now scattered and weakened, seemed curious about the very species they once tried to destroy. They had learned a truth that echoed through the galaxy. Humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. What made humanity powerful wasn't advanced weapons or superior numbers. It was their heart, their unity, and their ability to adapt. Even when cornered, they found ways to rise. They turned pain into strength, fear into courage, and defeat into innovation. Across distant star systems, whispers began to spread among other alien species. Tales of the humans, of the beings who fought back against an empire, who refused to be broken. Some called them the Children of Fire, others named them the Silent Storm. But one title spread faster than all: the apex predators of the galaxy. It wasn't because humans hunted for power. It was because they hunted for survival. And nothing in the universe was more dangerous than a survivor who refused to give up. As peace settled across Earth, new dreams began to grow. People started rebuilding cities on the surface again. The oceans cleared, forests regrew, and life returned to places once turned to dust. Children were born into a world where the stars were not symbols of fear, but of possibility. The Great War had changed everything. It taught humanity who they really were. Not fragile beings lost in the cosmos, but forces of will, capable of rewriting destiny. In quiet moments, those who survived would often look up at the sky and whisper the same words. We were never the hunted. We were only waiting to remember what we are. The collapse of the alien fleet wasn't just the end of a war. It was the beginning of a new era, one where humans stood as equals among the stars. And somewhere, in the far reaches of the galaxy, the last of the alien commanders watched in silence, knowing the truth that would forever echo through time. The moment they saw humans not as prey, but as predators, was the moment their empire began to fall. The war was finally over. The sky that once burned with the fire of battle was calm again. The silence that followed felt strange, almost unreal. For years, humanity had lived under the shadow of fear, but now there was peace. A peace that was earned through courage, unity, and sacrifice. The earth had scars. Some cities lay in ruins. Oceans still carried traces of fallen debris, and deserts had turned to glass from the energy blasts of war. But those scars didn't tell a story of defeat. They told a story of survival. Every mark on the planet was a reminder that humanity had faced extinction and won. People began to rebuild, slowly, but with determination. The same hands that once held weapons now planted seeds and repaired homes. Machines that once fought battles now helped clear rubble and build schools. It wasn't easy, but it was beautiful, watching life return to a world that had nearly lost it. But humanity's eyes were no longer fixed only on Earth. For the first time, they looked at the stars not with fear but with wonder again. They had defended their home, but something deeper had awakened inside them. Curiosity, ambition, and the will to explore. The same technology that was used to fight the alien invaders was now being repurposed. The great human fleet that once stood as a shield was slowly transformed into something new, an armada of explorers, scientists, and dreamers. The ships that once carried soldiers now carried families, engineers, and teachers. They didn't go into space to conquer. They went to understand. The moon became the first symbol of this new beginning. Massive colonies rose across its surface, shining like silver mirrors under the sun. From there, humanity expanded to Mars, building vast domes where life bloomed again. For the first time in history, human footsteps echoed on more than one world. And beyond Mars, hundreds of ships set out to explore the outer planets and the deep void beyond. They called it the Great Journey. The universe that once seemed endless and frightening was now open. Humanity, once trapped on a single planet, was spreading among the stars. But even as humans moved forward, they never forgot the lessons the war had taught them. Power alone meant nothing without purpose. Technology meant nothing without compassion. And survival meant little without unity. The alien species that had once attacked them, broken, scattered, and leaderless, began reaching out again. Slowly, carefully, they sent messages of peace. Humanity responded, not with anger but with understanding. The first meetings between humans and the alien survivors were tense. Both sides carried memories of pain. But as time passed, something surprising happened: cooperation. The aliens, impressed by humanity's ability to rebuild, began sharing knowledge of the stars, of science, and of ancient worlds they had once ruled. In return, humans shared something far more valuable: their resilience, their art, and their belief in second chances. Together, they began rebuilding what war had destroyed. Once enemies, now partners in survival. Back on Earth, life slowly began to look normal again. But it was a new kind of normal. Children grew up hearing stories of courage, not fear. They played with toys shaped like starships, dreaming of flying among the planets one day. Old soldiers became teachers. Scientists became leaders. The world that had once been divided by borders was now united by one shared truth. They were all part of the same story. As the years passed, humanity entered a new age, the age of expansion. Starports dotted the solar system. New settlements appeared on distant moons. Humans began terraforming planets, turning barren worlds into places where life could grow. Everywhere they went, they carried the same values that had saved them: hope, cooperation, and courage. In time, they discovered more alien civilizations, not as conquerors, but as equals. Some species had once feared humans. Others had only heard stories of the Earthborn warriors. But when they finally met real humans, they found something unexpected: kindness. The galaxy began to change. Old empires that once ruled through power started to listen. The idea of unity spread, and humanity became the center of a new alliance, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most human. They taught others that true strength wasn't about destruction. It was about the will to protect. Generations passed. The memories of the Great War faded, but the lessons remained. Humanity had transformed from survivors into pioneers, from warriors into builders. Yet even in this era of peace, there were still moments of reflection. On the anniversary of the final battle, the world always went silent for 1 minute. Every city, every colony, every ship paused to honor those who had fought and fallen. The stars above would glow brighter that night, as if the universe itself remembered. Among the colonies, one stood out: the memorial station, built in orbit above Earth. It wasn't a weapon or fortress. It was a floating museum filled with stories, recordings, and artifacts from the war. People from every corner of the galaxy visited it to understand what had happened, how one small planet had faced an empire and survived. In the main hall, a single line was written on the wall in every known language: "We were never the prey. We were the storm that rose when the universe least expected it." That quote became a symbol of humanity's journey, a reminder that no matter how dark things became, there was always a way to rise again. As the centuries passed, human technology advanced beyond imagination. Ships traveled faster than light. Artificial ecosystems were built on planets light years away. Yet at the core of everything, humans remained the same: emotional, unpredictable, passionate, and full of dreams. They still made mistakes. They still argued and disagreed. But they never forgot how unity had saved them once before. Whenever conflict threatened to rise again, people remembered the war and how close they had come to losing everything. By the 1000th year after the war, humanity had spread across hundreds of worlds. The Milky Way, once filled with hostile powers, was now home to a vast alliance of species living in peace. And at the heart of that alliance was Earth, no longer just a planet, but a legend. Children in faraway galaxies learned about the blue world that defied extinction. They studied the old battles, the technology, and the courage of the humans who had once turned fear into fire. But perhaps the most remarkable thing was that humanity never became arrogant. They remembered how it all began, with fear, struggle, and loss. That memory kept them humble, grounded, and grateful. And yet, deep inside, the same spirit still burned, that wild spark that made humans unpredictable, unstoppable, and alive. In one of the final transmissions from Earth sent to all colonies, a message was recorded by the Global Council. It said, "Remember where we came from. Remember that we were once afraid, but we chose to fight. Remember that being human is not about perfection. It's about rising every time we fall." That message echoed across the stars for generations. It became a promise that no matter how far they went, humanity would always carry the heart of Earth with them. Even the alien historians who once feared them began to write with admiration. One famous alien scholar wrote, "The humans are not the strongest or the oldest, but they are the fire that refuses to die. They fall, they bleed, they break, and yet they always rise again. They are the galaxy's reminder that life itself is unyielding." And so humanity's legend spread beyond the Milky Way, into galaxies far beyond sight. Ships carrying the banner of Earth traveled where no one had gone before. They didn't go to conquer or to claim, but to learn, to share, and to protect. The predators of old had become the guardians of tomorrow. At the edge of known space, a single human ship floated quietly, its crew staring out into the endless stars. Somewhere out there, more mysteries waited, more challenges, more chances to prove who they were. The captain smiled softly and said the same words that echoed through generations. "We are the children of Earth. We came from fire, but we bring light." And with that, the ship turned toward the unknown, engines glowing bright, cutting through the darkness like a promise. The story of humanity, the story of the once prey who became the universe's most determined protectors, would never end. It would live forever in every star, in every heart, in every world that remembered what it meant to be human.